Hey guys, welcome into Sports Around the Bar. I'm Jakey Bartender, this is Drew, and we have a ton of stuff going on today, man. Antonio Brown hanging things up. It's over, Drew. He's hanging up the helmet because he can't get the one he wants. Do you believe it?
No, I don't believe it one bit.
We're also talking Duke Johnson, but before that, we have a special guest tonight, Sharif, who has some thoughts on whether the preseason is too long or whether it isn't. We're going to go into that first, and then we're going to finish out the episode with the Patriots in 2019. So why don't we get right into it? Sharif, man, why don't you take a minute, say hello to everybody?
Hello.
And
What's up, guys?
like us, Sharif is out here saying, this preseason, man, 4 weeks is too much. 5 weeks if you got the Hall of Fame game. I've had to wait more than a month before meaningful football starts in the NFL. Before we go into Sharif's plan here, Drew, is it too long in the NFL season? Do they need to shrink it up a little bit?
Everyone got to remember that these 4 games are about developing young talent before the regular season starts. If you see some of these young quarterbacks that franchises are going to try to start their season with, they need some of this real-time rep. Now, do I think 4 games is a little too long? Yeah, it might be a game or two too long, but you got to have preseason. These games do matter to the team, developing talent and stuff like that, but I don't know really if there's a happy median. Hopefully Sharif has a really good idea for us.
Why don't we go into that, Sharif? What is the solution here, man? Lay it out for us. How do we finally solve all this preseason, issues between the fans, all the players, and all of the owners who want to pretty much all have their own ideas on how things should go?
Yeah, well, I concocted this little idea because, being the preseason, there's just a lot of talk about, the owners wanting to play more games, the players wanting more rest. So I have devised a plan where we have an international week where 16 cities all over the world will host an NFL game. So I comprise of a list of teams all over the world, or a list of cities, all over the world, and we all know that it has to be heavy in Europe. So the cities that I came up with were old NFL Europe teams from way back in the early 2000s. So the cities would be in Europe would be London, Berlin, Barcelona, Glasgow, Scotland, Amsterdam, Frankfurt, and Madrid. Then in the Americas, you'd have Mexico City, Toronto, Rio, Vancouver, or Montreal. And then in Asia, you have Seoul, South Korea, Beijing, Hong Kong, Tokyo, and then you can throw Sydney, Australia. So basically, by putting this international week together, then the NFL teams and the owners can take full advantage of the advertising, pushing the league global. Then, and then when these games happen, we give an additional bye week to every single team. Okay? Let's go back a little bit to the preseason. The preseason, you would cut the games. Each team would have one home game, one away game. So if the NFL or the Hall of Fame game starts off the preseason, so the 2 teams that are participating in preseason, that is considered an away game because it's on a neutral site. Then once the season starts, we hit the international week. Then we have the extra bye week. So with that extra bye week, then that extra bye week will then carry over at the end of the season. Whereas when the Super Bowl, when it's the playoffs come around, then we decide who the NFC and the AFC champion is. Then you can push that bye week and add it on at the back end of the season to whereas now we're pushing not to have the Super Bowl on the first or the second Sunday of February. Now we get to have it on the 3rd week of February. And coincidentally, the Monday after that is President's Day, which is a national holiday.
Gotcha.
So the fans would win off of that. And the thing is that if the fans have that extra day off, then there'll be more consumption of alcohol, more food to be bought, and so on and so forth. So that is my plan that I think that should be at least looked at, to whereas we're going to be pushing the brand globally, and then in return the players would get that extra week off.
Okay.
That they so want.
So to sum it up here, you're going to shorten the preseason down to 2 weeks, and then you're going to add a bye week in there for each of these teams. Then both of those teams over a 2-week span are going to play the first game overseas in all these cities that you picked out here. It's going to be interesting to split things out that way because, like we talked about beforehand, some of these teams that play that second week, what would be week 4 of the preseason, are now going to have to fly back to the United States and face a team that might be coming off a bye because they played the week earlier. So they're not only playing a team that's more rested to me, they're also going to have to go travel all these miles and then go land and play a team who's coming off an extra bye. So I do see a little bit of an advantage there. I think it's gonna take some creative kind of planning to get around that. But I think you're onto something. I think that would be interesting at the very least, and we get to see more meaningful football because you're talking about extending the season as well.
Hey, real quickly, Charlie, I'm glad you're off, man. I'm glad you could join us. Throw a couple down for
Cheers,
us.
bro.
Ian, I'm sorry you're going to miss the show. I understand you got to watch your Steelers, man, but hopefully you can keep...
Big Ben's not even going to play.
You can keep the game on mute and listen to
stay
us
here.
talk.
Big Ben isn't going to play a snap. Anyway, guys, is what it is. I think it's a good plan. I'm kind of with Jeremy. I like it. I think it would make things more interesting. We get to see a little bit more.
I want to poke holes in it just because I want to
ahead.
be a devil's advocate about it. The reason I want to poke holes in it, first I see every team have an extra bye week. Is that an extra bye week where there's no football on?
No. He's saying split it in half. So you have 8 games in what will be week 3 of the preseason, and then you have 8 games in week 4 of the preseason, and then they rotate who's on and who's off. So if you play in week 3, you get your bye week 4
so you're starting,
to travel for the international
So
side.
you're not starting the season early?
No, it does start. What would be week 3 of the preseason is where week 1 would start.
Where you would start, so...
Right.
Okay.
So you're either getting a bye in week 1 or week 2, and everybody's going to get to rest, and then... Or at least it's for travel because you're going overseas here. This isn't like even flying New York to California is nowhere near as taxing as taking that 6-hour plane ride out there to London, and then you have the time changes. I mean, especially if you're going to Germany, what are we talking? 9 hours ahead, maybe more, and that's of New York. So you might be even 12 hours ahead. It would take a little bit of time for the guys to get acclimated. I like the idea of them having a bye either the week before where they can go out there or the week after to kind of recuperate from it. I just think the guys who play that first week and then get to come back to the States and recuperate have an advantage there. As for the players thing, while we're poking a couple holes in this, I don't know that the players are going to go, period, for any kind of elongated season. Even if we're throwing extra buys in there, I think that might be a point of contention with them. I think that might be the hardest selling point for this kind of plan.
Charlie's saying he thinks it's a pretty cool idea. Sharif, you got any final thoughts about what we said?
Yeah, the one thing I do want to say about what Jake had touched on about the scheduling is the one way that you can kind of look at the scheduling is the first group of teams that are playing on the first leg of the internationals. When they come back, those other teams would then play each other when they come back. Not the same teams, but for example, if let's say the Chiefs are playing the Cowboys in London and the Titans are playing the Jets in Berlin. So then, once that bye week happens, and then when the second half of the teams have a bye, then you can have those teams will then come back, and then you'll have like a Kansas City versus Tennessee scenario, and those teams that are coming back from the bye will all play each other.
So all the teams that play in week 3 will play them in what would be week 1 of this regular season. So week 1 of the regular season, that way you're going to play guys who took the same bye week as you did, so you don't have that scenario. It'd be tough to pull off scheduling-wise.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting idea. If they could swing it with the schedule, believe me, I'd love to see a 17 or 18 game season.
I mean, let's be completely honest. Every time the schedule comes out every year, there is an issue where you're looking at like 4 away games. Like one team seems to always have 4 away games in a row.
Right.
Or someone seems to always face a short week against a division rival in a sense where it didn't, they didn't get
it just is what it is.
There's always, a terrible scenario in the schedule.
Especially when you talk about teams like New York that share a stadium and they have to find a way to work around each other, and then some other venues that, certain dates this isn't available for.
Soon will be L.A.
Exactly. I think it's one of those things that the schedule is very complicated already. It would take some creative planning ahead of time to make this happen. If they could, though, I'd like to see the extra flair, right? Wouldn't you want to go see a game played in China or a game played maybe in South Korea? You go back to Europe and try to get those fans that used to have NFL Europe that don't have a team to cheer for, get them involved. I don't know. I think it'd be cool. You get global fans for, whatever team you are. Maybe the Titans go and play in Germany every year. Maybe they go play in Berlin.
So, in a sense, make the international team their second
city. Exactly.
I can dig that.
That way the Titans could have Honolulu, they could have Nashville, and a city out there in Europe. I think that would be cool, especially if, the Jaguars go to London all the time. and then maybe the Chiefs go off to Scotland and they play in Scotland all the time. So you have a bunch of Scottish Chiefs fans. It would just kind of expand the sport in a way that would be meaningful. I think it'd be fun to see, number one. And number two, you could take time to spend, if I'm the NFL, I'm kind of like highlighting like, hey, look how cool this other thing is. We're going to do this. It would almost be, I don't want to say a gimmick, but it would be something to bring more interest to it.
Yeah.
All right, well, Sharif, obviously we appreciate your time, man. It was a fun interview. Let everybody know how they can find you on social, because you also have a sports talk page.
Yes, I do. I have a sports talk page called Sharif Ahmed Sports Talk. I talk about NFL, NBA, MMA, boxing. Every now and then when there's a WWE or now AEW pay-per-view, I always like to throw up some old school videos or have some comments about that. You can also find me on Twitter. Same thing, Sharif Ahmed Sports Talk. Just type that in and I'll be on the Twitter page as well.
Awesome, man. Well, we appreciate it, and we'll talk to you.
Well, actually, you can always find Sharif in our comment pages as we go live. Sharif has been a value to our community and to commenting and adding a lot of knowledge into his comments into our show.
Great point.
You've been absolutely tremendous for us, and as far as not only a friend but also tons of knowledge.
Not to mention all the likes, the shares, the comments, man. You're part of what makes Sports Around the Bar great, and we appreciate that. Yeah. So we hope to talk to you soon, Sharif. And we will catch you next time, all right?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'll be following you guys as I hang up.
Awesome, man. Have a good one. We'll talk to you later.
All right, Chris says, make every team face each other.
Hung up on him too early.
Sorry about that, Sharif. Make every team face each other and still play the division teams twice. Get rid of the preseason altogether.
20 games. I would love it. But then again, we don't want the injuries. And we also want these teams to be sharp when they get to there, right? I mean, we're even just beyond the preseason games. Let's not forget we have those training camps in there. Chris, that's the dream scenario for me. I would love to see that. But then again, he says make every team face each other. That's what, 31 games a year? I think maybe he means in the conference. Maybe the conference all plays it. That's 16 games there, and you play the division twice, so that's, about 19 games a year? That'd be fun for me. I think that'd be great. I think any kind of more football I can get, I'm going to take it at this point. Yeah. I don't know necessarily how realistic it is, especially when you talk about health. I mean, it's tough getting through a 16-game schedule, right?
Oh,
so
it is.
Do we need to back off a little bit? Do we need to say 16 is as good as we're going to get with as hard as guys hit today and as bad as like the CTE and everything else that comes with football is? I mean, even beyond the immediate, you can go out there and break your neck and die. I mean, there's all kinds of lasting impact on these guys, too. Do we need to just take what we can get here?
I want to, as to preserve what football was in the past. I feel like if we go over 16 games, we got to rewrite the record books. You got to put asterisks next to people breaking all-time records and things like that. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for more football, but to destroy like my childhood
does it throw out the Patriots' perfect season where they went 16-0? Because then the next team to do it, you're going to say, well, they're better. They played 18 games.
Yeah, and they didn't lose a game. So that's kind of what my point is. It's like it destroys what has been there before. And I know the NFL has gone through this before when the NFL and the AFL combined together and made or whatever it was back then, the American League, and I can't even remember what it is now, but they made the NFL. They've had this issue, and they've gone from 12 games to 16 games.
Ty, James, man, we're glad to see you. Good. Hope you guys are doing well today,
It's too much, man. It seems like it's too much.
Didn't mean to cut off the point. Keep going.
No, you're fine. No, I want to introduce people, too. Ivy, thank you so much for being here, man. It seems like adding more games to it would destroy what the history of the NFL has been.
I'm with you. I think 16, well, I'm not entirely with you. I'd like to see more football. Not only would it make Sports Around the Bar easier, it would make my life have more meaning because I get to watch 18 games in the regular season and then playoffs on top of it. I'm also for expanding the playoffs. I think that would be good. Instead of 6 teams, make it 7. Put an extra wild card in there and then give only the first team in each conference a bye. You'd have 2 teams actually playing harder, I think, at the top end of the NFL. There would be no games off where right now you can be in that second spot and say, I can make it. Or if you're first, you're definitely coasting. I think if you only have the one spot, people stay motivated for longer, make more interesting talk through the rest of the season. Going to Ivy's point, though, he says, I believe it's a he. If you're a lady, Ivy, I apologize for that. But he says the NFL is such an international attention right now. It can happen. I agree. That's where they're trying to grow. right? That's why they spent all that money in NFL Europe in the early 2000s or 90s, whatever that was, before it wound up falling apart. I think the NFL looks at those games as their best opportunity to grow. It's why they go to London every year. It's why they go to Mexico City. They want to grow internationally because they already know they got us, right?
Yep, and Charlie, a comment back or a ways back, says, not related, but we're getting the Raiders here in Vegas, who I'm not a fan of, but hey, we get to see NFL games live. I think that's exactly what Sharif is getting at with that point and putting teams out there internationally, and that's the reason why they're in Mexico, the reason why literally almost every sport is expanding outside its normal realm, is to create more fans. And as you said, Ivy, but there is international attention. It would make sense for this to happen. Maybe I'm just to preserve it. I want to preserve the game of what it is. And don't get me wrong, guys. I want more NFL. I wish it was a year-round sport. And Jeremy says maybe up the cap and expand the roster size. The problem with that is you're diluting the talent in the sense that there's going to be some guys out there that aren't as good as the rest of them, and it kind of hurts the game a little bit.
It does, number one. And number two, the Players Association may not even want that to happen. And I know that sounds counterintuitive. You know, they should want more players. They should want more money to it. But they exist to serve veteran players. They don't exist to serve younger players in the league. A lot of their rules, a lot of their negotiations benefit the older players that have been around in the NFL, because a lot of times it's run by a lot of those veterans who played 10, 12, 14 seasons in the NFL. So when you look at this, they're going to see that almost as a threat. They're going to say, even though you're upping the cap, when you up that roster size, you're spreading out money that should be going to these top-end guys. They should be getting more of that, and instead they might get a smaller piece of a bigger pie that might cost them money in the long run. So I think it's a good idea. To me, the hardest selling point's the players and the Players Association. Anything beyond that, I mean, of course the owners want to play more games. Of course the fans want more games, right? Because everyone wants to watch more meaningful football. The question to me is, how are you going to talk the NFLPA into this? Because if you can't do it, obviously, with the collective bargaining, nothing happens unless you can talk them into wanting to play more games.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's tough, man. I kind of feel like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place and what I want from it. I don't know, man. I guess it just needs to be a decision made out of my hands so I could just be happy that something happened.
Exactly. Exactly. Charlie says, more football. Amen, man. We're right there with you. And James says, and we'll move into this, that he thinks Antonio Brown should wear a new helmet, Drew. Let's talk about that, because Antonio Brown, if you haven't heard, says he's going to retire or will never play, and part of his holdout is because the NFL has outlawed his and 9 other helmets that they say are safety issues. They're obviously looking forward to health problems on players. They think they can manipulate the equipment so you see fewer effects on guys later in their lives. But Antonio Brown says the new helmets restrict his vision too much. So he does not want to wear them, and he won't play without his old one. What's the answer here? Is this the last we've seen in Antonio Brown after all we've talked about in this offseason? Will we never see him again?
No. He's full of himself. He's going to be out there. He's going to be playing. I know Steven probably has a lot to say about that whole scenario, but I think it's just I feel like he thinks he can say whatever he wants and nothing bad's going to ever happen from it.
Well, it's a threat, right? That's one way to get what you want. I'll never play again. I'm done. I'm going to take my toys and I'm going home.
Yeah, I'm way more important than the game itself.
It might make him buckle. It might. When you're
Think
talking
so?
about stars. No, it won't. But they might consider grandfathering in the players that used to wear these helmets. It's not just Antonio Brown. Tom Brady's helmet has also been outlawed now, and Tom Brady apparently doesn't like it either. He says it restricts his vision and everything, doesn't want to do it, even though he's not threatening to hang up the cleats if he doesn't get to wear his old helmet. This isn't just Antonio Brown who's got a problem with this new equipment. I think if it's me and I'm the NFL, I'd say, look, use it at your own peril. Sign this waiver that says, I know this helmet may be dangerous, but I accept the risks by signing on this dotted line. And let the guys that have worn these helmets already for, almost 10 years for Antonio Brown, and how long for Tom Brady? 45 years or whatever it's been when he's coming to the NFL? I think when you look at things, I would let the guys wear the same helmets they already did. I would just grandfather them in. Every new player now must wear these helmets that I say they can wear.
Lewis says that's a dramatic move by Brown. I got to agree.
Well, what doesn't he do that isn't dramatic?
And hey, Ivy, I want to apologize. You're a girl. I went Facebook snooping because I don't want to be wrong. We apologize so much. I'm so glad you're here with us.
I don't apologize for anything.
No, we love
welcome
ladies
to modern
in this show.
times. We don't apologize. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, our bad. We didn't know. Again,
I
we
went
tried not
Facebook
to snoop,
snooping.
but he did.
I
couldn't
need
help
to know.
himself.
I need to know.
Mm-hmm.
I need to make it right. I need to make it right for her. Guys, welcome Ivy.
Also, if you're a woman, feel free to let us know because we butcher names all the time on the show. Ivy,
I do.
We are glad you're on the show, though.
You're better at than I am.
That doesn't make me good.
You're better.
Better.
I'm like below average.
All right. We'll go into a few more of these comments here. Jeremy says Antonio Brown needs to retire. He's bad for the NFL. He doesn't care what the numbers he puts up. He's a drama queen. Well, it keeps us talking about the NFL in the offseason. There's no news, or there's no bad news, such thing as bad news, right? The only bad news is people not talking about you. We could even all go out there and say Antonio Brown is an idiot. Nobody likes what he's saying. He's ridiculous, but as long as you're talking about him, the NFL wins.
Yeah.
That would be my point here. The NFL, regardless of this, benefits from the controversy because we're out here talking about Antonio Brown before the season started. How long did we spend on him in the offseason? Because he was making these comments. I mean, we spent a significant amount of time talking about where's he going, who's going to trade for him, what are all these attitude problems. Now he's talking about he burned his feet. We talked about all of it because, and it's brought the attention and the spotlight back to the NFL. And especially when you look at the NBA and what they've done, they love this kind of stuff when you're not actually playing games. And Ty says it's an Odell move. Yeah, it's an Odell move. Odell is like Antonio Brown Jr. He'll be there in like 3 or 4 years. He's just got to develop a little bit. Got to develop that personality.
And Ivy's with me. She says she thinks that he'll cave in and use the helmet. Money talks. I'm right there with you. Sheree said that comment. Yeah, Brown is getting what $22 million a year. Money's going to be talking. He's going to be using that helmet. Sharif also says Antonio Brown needs to go to the locker room, take off his foundation and mascara, and deal with it.
Oh, that one's tough. Chris also says could also just cut down on some of the divisional games, going back to what we were talking about before, and just add one game and add more matchups, and that can make the season more interesting. I'm kind of with him. I'd like to see more interesting matchups between AFC and NFC. I know that there's the whole play the division thing. It kind of rotates, and you get lucky because the division falls apart when you go and play them, or you get unlucky because that division's great when you have to play them. I would like to see more cross-conference matchups because to me, that to me is some of the most interesting football. These are guys that aren't used to playing each other. I want to see, instead of maybe you pick a division, maybe you pick the same seed, and the 3 seeds from the NFC play the 3 seeds from the AFC, and that becomes more interesting to me.
Ian, always with his comedy, he says, let AB go helmetless. He'll gain IQ points.
Now, let's not pretend this isn't the jaded Steelers fan, though. I feel your pain, Ian, but more and more, every day, I can't help but feel like the Steelers got the better end of this trade. I have to feel like they did. When you see all the attitude, you see all the stuff coming out about his feet, you see him not reporting to training camp, not reporting to OTAs, him just throwing it all in the Raiders' face. If I'm John Gruden, I'm like, man, what did I just buy?
Steven, our local Raiders fan, says you guys are helping promote
Hard Knocks. Do they need us, though?
This is a joke. AB is an idiot, and he'll be there week 1. He'll be there week 1, though. This is all a joke. He has an injury from hot air balloon. It's blisters. No, it's frostbite. No, it's the helmet. Move on. If he's out week 1, you'll hear me say I was wrong. I promise until then, there is nothing but hard knock hype.
No, I'm kind of with you, Steven. I think you're right. I think he's not going to miss any time. And if I said before that I felt like he was going to, I didn't mean it that way. What I was talking about is I think he's just trying to get the NFL to back down, and he wants to wear what he wants to wear. If I'm the NFL, why do I care? He's already played 9 years probably wearing the same helmet, 10 years wearing the same helmet. Look, if there's any damage done, it's already happened. I'd say grandfather those guys in and say, if you want to wear the helmet that you've been wearing for years, feel free to do it, but every new player cannot wear that. That's the easiest thing. Hockey did it. Hockey said if you existed in a time before our guys had to wear helmets, you can play without a helmet. Nobody did, pretty much. I mean, I think you had like 1 or 2 guys not play with a helmet. Yeah, but for the most part, everybody wore a helmet because it's safer to wear a helmet. Just tell all the new guys you got to wear a helmet. You have to wear this specific helmet, and all this goes out the window. That being said, Steven, the frostbite thing, a little bit more serious. I mean, when you have frostbite on the bottom of your feet, that is, I don't know, maybe it's an advantage. Maybe not feeling your feet at that point, you can make something happen. Maybe some of that pain tolerance goes up. I don't know.
Oh, man. Then again, you will always hear me say, I don't really care what millionaires do with their free time or say it makes no difference in my life. I just want him to be out there in week 1 and make the game that I love and cherish that much better because he is such a talent to be out there. And I love the fact that he's in my division. So now all his stats go up, but I'm still beating the Raiders. That's right, Steven. We're still beating you guys.
Also, Chris says productivity can be changed by the smallest change at uniform, and if you aren't productive, it affects the back pocket of the player. I understand where he's coming from. He wants to stay great. If this restricts his vision by even a little bit, I would be complaining about it too. Do I know if I'd go that far and say, I'll never play football again? Well, maybe if I wanted something done and I've been one of the best receivers in the league for 5 years. This is all about leverage. This is all about, can Antonio Brown bully the NFL and all of their quote-unquote scientists that study the equipment and the effects guys take with these hits into letting him wear what he wants to wear? And I say, if I'm the NFL, wear whatever you want to wear. Just accept the risk. Accept the risk. And you already are by playing football. Yeah. Accept that incremental more risk that, hey, maybe something happens to you if you want to wear that helmet that you want to wear. Just sign this waiver first. So it's not our fault.
Yeah, that you're absolutely right. I mean, it's the same thing with like calf pads and knee pads and stuff like that. A lot of these receivers don't wear that stuff because it says it restricts them as they're running down the field, so they don't got to wear it. I think it should be the exact same scenario. It should be a choice of their own, but now you got to have them save or sign a waiver saying, hey, I take this risk upon myself.
One more comment, and then we'll move on to the Texans trading for Duke Johnson. Steven says he agrees on that again, and Antonio is beyond stupid, but he's possibly the best receiver in the game. When he catches 100 balls and has 10-plus TDs like always, he'll get back to us, and they claim now he was already cleared to play from the frostbite. Now they claim it's been the helmet thing that's all along been keeping him out. Steven, I get it. As gross as those feet were, and as I imagine, it's probably somewhat painful and ginger to step on those things. This might be that casual deflection of, it's not the frostbite, guys. He didn't hurt himself doing something stupid. Don't worry about it. He's holding out because he wants to wear a different helmet. This could be just a deflection of Antonio Brown's feet is worse than we want to let on. And we don't want to sit there and say, our star receiver, we just traded some assets to go get paid a lot of money to a 30-year-old to go sign, might be hurt worse because of this cryogenic freezing chamber problem than we want to lead on. So that would be my only point here. I think this might even be a ploy from the Raiders to kind of pull the old shell game and say, nobody knows if this guy's going to play week 1 because we don't want to admit that he's hurt from the frostbite.
There is a couple things in there in the comments where Shree's saying the Steelers are going to win the North, and Chris came back saying they have no defense, and Big Ben is definitely not what he used to be. The Ravens have a top 5 defense unit and in the league, and he'd be baffled if your team doesn't win the league, meaning the Ravens, or doesn't win that division, meaning the Ravens. I got a couple points to that. I can't let it go away. First off, the Ravens did have a top 5 defense. There's been a lot of depletion of leadership in that team and on that side of the ball, so it's yet to be known if it's still a top 5.
And maybe this is me buying too much hype. One more point on that, and then you go on.
Okay.
I watched them in the preseason, and I was like, the Ravens are still swarming to the ball. I was like, we keep saying they lose to these guys.
No, I get it.
And yet it still looks like the same old defense.
But you can't. It's the same thing, and that's what I wanted to say before you went to your point about it, is to sit there and say the Steelers don't have a defense is not completely true, too. Because they have a defensive line and linebackers that love to swarm the quarterback and get out to that quarterback. One thing that they did not lack was pressure on that quarterback that they're facing. So to sit there and say they did not have a defense is not completely true. And what did they focus on the offseason? That's their secondary. Right. Now, do I think the additions make their secondary better? We'll see.
Well, Earl Thomas. Wait, we talking Ravens still?
No, I was talking about the Steelers.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, then we'll see. Steven Nelson?
We'll see. And they added through the draft and stuff like that too. So my thing is about it is, to be honest, those are the 2 teams beyond the Browns who you can't build up to all that hype just yet because they got to keep winning. They got to win games to get there. I think those are the 2 teams that could possibly win that division.
I think it's a 3-horse race too.
So
I think it's the Ravens, right. Browns, and Steelers.
Right.
All 3 of them, they're contenders now.
So sit there and say Sharice completely off his rocker is not completely true. Because the Ravens have taken a lot of loss in that defense. And to be honest with you, how much do you believe in that offense with Lamar Jackson running it and throwing the ball?
I didn't like what I saw, and we were going to talk about preseason week 1, but we're going to pass on that for now. We got too much other stuff going on, and it's preseason. This can all be, sugar water where we want to see something where, like, man, this guy looked good, this guy looked bad, and none of it winds up being true when we actually play football that everyone cares about. So we're not going to go into that. Steven says it's a ratings builder, going back to Antonio Brown, for HBO and the NFL, saying, he's not going to play and everything. I don't know that this is scripted. I really don't. Maybe this is the Raiders saying, hey, distract everyone from those frostbitten feet by saying something stupid, and we'll back you up on it. I think more than that, it's just Antonio Brown flying off the handle and saying what he wants to say, and then the NFL and the HBO sitting back and saying, "This is good for us. Keep talking." And then on the surface, they're like, "Man, what is this guy talking about?" Behind the scenes, they're like, "Keep talking, keep talking."
Frank, I'm glad you could join us, man. Ian, I hate to tell you this, but Facebook for some reason doesn't show us the comments. You'll see. He's on his computer. I'm on my phone. The reason is we get different comments. So, again, guys, if we miss your comments, I'm so sorry. I do try to write everyone's name down. And, again, guys, thank you so much for all your likes, comments, and shares. It means the world to us. It helps us grow as a community. And it helps us beat Facebook's algorithm. I know we keep saying that over and over again. But I wish we could show you the numbers.
Let me let them peek behind the curtain here real quick. We have over 10,000 people on this page and people that are like, man, we love your show. We wish we could follow it more and everything, and then Facebook on a given night might show it to 200 or 300 people. So their algorithm absolutely kills us. If you share, if you like, if you comment, it helps us beat that. It helps spread it out a little bit more. But we're almost at their mercy. Where what do you do?
Yeah, we are trying to grow as much as we possibly can, and as we grow, we can add more to this show. Obviously, we've had special guests in the past. We had Sharif just join us. We possibly might have another special guest on Monday.
Better. We've already had one guest cancel on us this week. We'd better have a guest on Monday.
But we're trying to grow as Sports Around the Bar, so all this stuff is so huge to us, and we appreciate it immensely.
Yeah, exactly. We appreciate you guys. You're one of the best. No, you are the best audience in sports right now. We appreciate all your thoughtful comments. Even if you're just watching, even if you haven't stepped into the arena, you haven't thrown your hat out there and said, here's what I want to talk about, feel free to. This is a judgment-free zone. We're like Planet Fitness in here. We don't judge. Even if you're like way out there.
Let me rephrase you. We won't judge. I can't promise you guys are going to judge.
All right. Yeah, whatever.
And Ian, we did find out who hacked us. It's a friend of ours, but still hilarious, by the way.
That was too much behind the curtain. All right, we'll move on.
How is that too much behind the curtain?
You ruined it all. You ruined the mystique. We're going to talk about Duke Johnson, though. Before we talk about the Patriots, I want to talk about this Duke Johnson trade.
The mystique.
Before we move on, I want to talk about Duke Johnson. I do. I want to talk about the Texans picking up a guy that we don't know who won this trade, because on one hand, we love Duke Johnson coming in for the Houston Texans, who I have said, and you have said, man, Deshaun Watson needs somebody not named DeAndre Hopkins to catch the ball for him. And Will Fuller's always hurt. Even Kiki Kute can't stay on the field, or has struggled in his rookie year to stay on the field. They need a pass catcher. So what do they go and get? A wonderful pass catcher out of the backfield. We've even said they need help for Lamar Miller. They need to get another running back there in Houston. But they gave up a 4th round that could turn into a 3rd as long as he plays in a lot of games. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of assets to give up for him.
Steven, thank you so much for this comment. He said, when will the fantasy draft be? I want to remind you guys again that we are taking donations for St. Jude's Children's Hospital. You remind me about this, man.
Right now, $1 gets you in. So if you want to donate $1,
I'll sit there and tell you right now, the highest donation is $40. That's the highest donation. So if you are trying to make sure that you're in it, more than $40.
When we get closer, I'm going to post a list of our higher donators showing everybody who gets in. But right now, $1 will land you a spot in our fantasy league that we're going to talk about on the show. We're going to talk about what you did. We're going to talk about how you stack up. We're going to talk about how you beat us. We're going to talk about all of that.
Yeah.
But guys, if you want to donate for that, again, we have buttons on our page. All you have to do is click on our name, Sports Around the Bar, click on posts, scroll down, you'll find it. I promise you.
We'll make sure we keep sharing it so it is closer to the top. Yep.
I'm sharing it every day, humanly possible. But again, Facebook only lets you see so much. We do what we can. We're trying to raise money for a great cause and have fun with you guys at the same time. We've donated. We hope you can too. Even if you can't, if you can share that post, you never know. Anyone on your friends list that might feel the same, that they can do it. This is going to like one of the best charities out there.
Absolutely.
Nobody likes sick kids, right? We're 100% anti-sick kids. There's nobody out there like, yeah, sick kids. So
and this goes straight to the children and their
100%.
So
100%.
It means we're just, we are not taking any cut of it at all for Sports Around the Bar. And to be honest with you, maybe this is too much behind the curtain too. As you can tell, we are just made out of money over here. So our donation, it takes a lot out of us, and it means that's how much it means to us. We honestly sat there and talked about making a pot and just taking your guys' and our money and putting it in a pot and win it, but we're like, that's not what this is about.
Right.
This is about how we can grow as a community and how we can help the world, and I think this is one of the best charities we could possibly do that in.
And Ian's talking about how his comments got black holed. That comment you read, but it was Steven's comment. I don't have it. I haven't seen that, which is why we watch on the phone. We watch on multiple computer screens.
Right.
For whatever reason, Facebook Live does not always show the comments, and Facebook, as easy as it is to connect with people, isn't exactly perfect either. So, again, we appreciate each and everything. We appreciate everything you guys do. Before we move on and talk about this Duke Johnson trade, if you can help this cause out, we would appreciate it a ton, even if it's $1. Even if everybody gives $1, I mean, we have, like we said, we have over 10,000 people on this page. That can make a huge dent into it. It can, absolutely.
And remember,
death by 1,000 cuts.
Right. And remember, if you want to donate and not play in our fantasy league, that is also an option as well. Remember to message us with how much you donate and what you want to do as far as join the league or not.
All right, let's keep grinding. Let's talk about Duke Johnson going on to the Houston Texans here. First off, on paper, I love this deal. Cleveland gets a pick. Houston gets a running back that they desperately need with Alfred Blue, obviously not the guy who's going to be that replacement to Lamar Miller. Lamar Miller, in our opinion, probably one of the bottom-end starters at the running back position, right?
Right. He's kind of, in my opinion, a one-pony show in the sense of he only has really one thing, and that's run up the middle. And with a terrible offensive line, like Sharif has been pointing out in his comment, it doesn't always seem to work out.
Right.
And every now and then when he bounces out and he has an open lane, he can run those long runs, but you really don't see that very often. To add someone like Duke Johnson, who is definitely more of a scat back, probably the best receiving option in the league, who's been underutilized, underperformed because he played for the Cleveland Browns. At least that's what I feel like. He has a great opportunity. Yes, that offensive line is terrible, but he is playing with a more polished quarterback in Deshaun Watson at this point in time.
Absolutely. I think we need weapons for Deshaun Watson. Then again, on the other hand, let me play devil's advocate here a little bit. Jordan Howard went for a 5th-round pick. That might turn into a 4th, I believe. It might be a 6th. I can't even remember. Jordan Howard went for peanuts. And the Houston Texans sat back and let the Eagles steal that pick from them because, yeah, even though he's a similar runner, Howard catches out of the backfield. He's probably a better runner than Lamar Miller is from a pure standpoint. He's a guy who can pass block as well. They let a guy like Jordan Howard slip by them in the offseason when they knew they needed a running back and instead chose to give up what will likely become a 3rd-round pick to bring in Duke Johnson. So when I look at this, and I look at this deal here, this is an expensive addition. For a guy getting paid $5 million a year on that 3-year, $15 million contract, to also give up a 3rd-round pick on top of it, Houston has paid saying our backup running back or our running back situation is not good enough. Do I like that the player is there? Sure. Would I have liked this to be a lot cheaper if I'm a Houston Texans fan? 100%. I think they paid a premium for a guy that, even though he catches out of the backfield, he does what Lamar Miller doesn't. Cleveland spent a lot of assets to try to replace. Let's not forget about that. They drafted Nick Chubb after he was there. They leaned on Isaiah Crowell a lot when he was there. They brought in also Kareem Hunt from the Chiefs and Carlos Hyde before that. They have spent a lot of picks saying we don't believe in Duke Johnson, even though the talk and the money shows that they did. I think this is still one of those guys that did not show up as much as they probably needed him to in Cleveland, which is why he hit the bricks.
And I know we talked about this prior to the show, and I brought this point up is the fact that when you put these two running backs together, they could possibly be one of the better running backs in the league. Because one thing that Duke Johnson does not do well, and that's run up the middle.
Right.
And he almost has just as many catches as he does running the ball. But his attempts or his yards per attempt is still above 4, which is pretty good.
You take that. You take that to the bank because that's first downs. If you
Exactly.
can carry every time you touch the ball, you're over 4 yards a carry. You take that because that's the first down every time. I think Duke Johnson, though, has also thrived off of being the guy that comes in on passing downs, and maybe you get that like draw on 3rd and 6.
Absolutely.
And maybe you get there. It's easier to run there than it is on 1st and 10, where everyone knows you're a running team and you need to rely on the running backs. We haven't seen that out of Duke Johnson. He's not that guy. I'm not saying Houston needs to use him that way.
Regardless of how you look at it, he's underutilized if it's a bad attitude or just doesn't fit the scheme of the head coach. Regardless of how you want to put it, this guy's going into year 5, and he only has 299 attempts on the ground.
Yep, but to your point, he had almost as many catches. He almost as many catches through the air.
235 or something like that.
Which for a running back is unheard of. Usually you get more carries on the ground than you do through the air. I think Duke Johnson going into Houston makes them a more dangerous team, but it costs you a pretty penny to bring him in, especially when we talk about running backs being a dime a dozen. You could have found an undrafted guy or somebody else, a Phillip Lindsay even, that could have fit this role for you. Instead,
but what
they
have
didn't bother to try.
Always said about Duke Johnson? What is the thing that Duke Johnson...
Watch out for him this year, and then it never happens.
Okay, beyond that, we do say that. But beyond that, what do we do? We say he is probably the best back receiving the ball out of the backfield.
One of them. Yeah, for sure.
Probably the best back receiving the ball out of the backfield.
I'm kidding.
We're not getting into that right now. But no, that's something that we always said about him. So this is a great addition to Houston. Do I sit there and think that they overpaid for him? Yeah. Maybe that's a John Dorsey thing. I mean, this is something we talked about too. Houston Texans don't have a general manager. John Dorsey is one of the best ones in the NFL, if not the best general manager in the NFL. This guy knows how to shop people and knows how to pick teams and knows how to sit there and find the right person. Now, if I'm the Houston Texans and I just picked up or if I'm the Redskins, I'm going to kind of throw a little spinner here. If I'm the Redskins and I just saw the Houston Texans sit there and spend a 4th round, possibly a 3rd round for Duke Johnson, a 3rd string running back, hey, I've got a lot of running backs. I got a starting left tackle.
Yeah.
And
they've already said Trent Williams is not moving.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'd be picking up the phone if I was the Redskins. Hey, I got a starting left tackle. That,
give me your first this year, your first next, and the second 3 years from now.
And I know your offensive line is atrocious, especially on that left tackle spot.
I would do it too. Dan Snyder won't, but I would do it too. Going into this, my final thought on this trade here: Houston, you should have waited. You should have waited because with the preseason coming to an end, nobody wants an attitude problem in their locker room. I'm going to read a couple comments here first. So if you commented on Duke Johnson, we'll get to that in just a second. But nobody wants an attitude problem in their locker room when the regular season starts. They'd have cut him. I 100% believe the Cleveland Browns would have cut Duke Johnson if they couldn't find a trade partner. Instead, they walked away with your 3rd round pick. Either wait till week 1 and make the same trade where you overpay for him, and believe me, they would trade this in week 1 if he's still saying, I need a trade and I'm not going to get to play behind Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. Wait until that happens, or lowball. And again, this might be because they don't have a GM. That was a fantastic point. But the Houston Texans, to me, paid for a guy that might have been a free agent 3 weeks from now. And they could have just given some money to. And probably not picked up that $15 million contract on top of it. Over 3 years, 15 total.
But my argument to that is, I think Duke Johnson is a hot commodity. I think that there is more than just one team that reached out to the Browns. This is the team that was willing to give him the most. And if he would have found himself in free agency, I think they would have been in a bidding battle. And as far as the Texans go, they don't got a lot of cap space.
Well, you say bidding war that they would have been in for Duke Johnson. They're paying him $5 million a year. So you just admitted, like, let's lose the bidding war and go give this guy top dollar. $5 million for a 3rd string running back.
And you don't know if he wants to come play for the Houston Texans.
No, you don't. But realistically, how many spots are you going into and getting meaningful carries, which apparently is what he wants?
Probably the Patriots would have called, and then he'd been in a Patriots uniform.
You think so? Really? With Sony Michel and James White, who already do the same job
the way they pick up running backs? Heck yeah.
Well, I'm not saying they would have been interested, but if you're Duke Johnson, is that where you're going? I don't know about that. Comments here. Steven says Houston could be dangerous this season. If Watson is healthy all season, he definitely thinks that they will be in the playoffs and possibly even win that division. Blasphemy. I can put them as a top 3 team in the AFC, and they can keep that team overall healthy. Watson is obviously the key, though. Here's where I disagree, Steven. I think a lot of their games last year, they won almost in spite of themselves. They let teams like the Jets hang around there. They won very close in some of these games. Their offensive line is atrocious. Their secondary has had some major subtractions here. They're going to miss the Honey Badger. They have a great front 7. They have a great quarterback. They have 1 great receiver, and then 2 guys that we have yet to see stay healthy in Qute and Will Fuller. Beyond that, I think the Houston Texans are a little gimmicky. I don't think they're better than the Colts, and I don't think they're better than my Titans either. I think they're a team that's probably on par with those guys. But just like the AFC North, this is a 3-horse race, maybe even 4 if the Jags can get back on track in the AFC South. I think there are good teams and a lot of talent down south.
All right, let me get to some more of these comments. Sherry said...
It's cool. I'm going to go for round 3.
Okay. In Texans' defense, that Jordan Howard would have commanded a lot of money. There's no doubt about it. Jordan Howard is going to ask for a lot more money than Duke Johnson at the end of this contract. No doubt about it. Jeremy says, I can see Duke Johnson having his best season easily, but a 4th-round pick might have been too much, but he'll see. And Steven goes into that too, saying that a 4th-rounder for a guy that comes in and immediately contributes doesn't at all seem bad to him.
But the problem is this is going to turn into a 3rd.
4th-round
if he plays like 9 games.
Half the time their career is backups at best. This guy is an instant upgrade on the field. They've waited. If they had waited, they'd had no idea if they'd have signed him. And I have to agree with that.
Fair point.
I have to agree with that.
But what I will say is this is likely to become a 3rd-round pick because I think all he has to do is stay active for 9 games. It maybe appear in 9 games, but let's face it. You look at this running back room for Houston. Short of him having a season-ending injury before that halfway point, he's going to make it to 9 games. So realistically, this is a 3rd-round pick. And 3rd-round picks have the ability to make an impact on your team. I think there's a huge discrepancy. Like, the top 100 out of college, to me, is almost that dividing line. And in the 3rd round, you're going to go get a top 100 guy. If this is just a 4th-round pick, I'd say you did what needed to be done. I think that's probably my line. If I'm a GM, I'm looking at this saying, am I getting the value out of what I'm trading for a guy who is likely to be a free agent? And my answer to that is you paid a high price for him. I like getting him. I like the whole go out and get our guy idea, right? I mean, there's a lot to that because you're right. There's 31 other teams that might have been, or at least 30 because it's not Cleveland, that might have been interested in this guy and he might have run off to. Make him an offer he can't refuse. That's all I can say. Make him an offer he can't refuse.
All right, so Steven says...
My Italian accent, just as bad as my Texan accent that from last episode.
So Steven says, but to the key of everything you're saying, they won those games. Winning close games is what separates good teams from the bad. But before you get to defend yourself...
Go ahead.
One thing I do want to say, especially as a Chiefs fan going into the playoffs, I have always begged and gave everything to the NFL gods that the Chiefs played them because that was a team I wanted to face going into the playoffs because it was the weakest team there. When it comes to like teams like the Colts or Titans, I'm not asking for them.
The other thing, regression to the mean, which is an old saying that means eventually you'll go back towards the average. I think Houston kind of got some luck on their side. They had things kind of break their way in some of those games. I think when you look at the way this team is built, they're going to regress a little bit. They're going to go back towards what the average number is. And I think when you look at the Houston Texans, I think, yes, they had some success last year, but you can't bank on that every year.
Right.
Are you watching that spider come down from the ceiling right in front of the camera?
I've
been watching him the whole show.
I thought he was going to come right in front of the camera lens.
I know. I'm still watching because we're on a bit of a delay. But anyway.
We're going to have a friend.
Exactly. If you didn't see, there was a spider that dropped all the way down from the ceiling right in front of our camera. I hope you couldn't see him, but you never know. Moving forward, Drew, one final thought on this. Whose comment was that? Talking about the Texans winning those close games? They did.
Steven.
That is very important, Steven. Let me say this, though. You can't bank on winning close games forever. And this is a Titans fan. Mr. We win close games.
Yeah, no
you
joke.
cannot bet on that forever. Eventually, the team will drop back to what is the NFL average, and you'll get beat by teams like Buffalo and the Jets and teams that haven't quite figured it out. That doesn't need to be the game plan. You want to go into the season like the Chiefs or the Patriots says, we can beat anyone in the NFL, and we'll lose 4 or 5 games because everyone in this league is so good. You don't want to go into the season like the Texans are and say, we won 10 games last year, but this year it might be 6 because things might not go our way in those games. Not that I'm picking the Texans to win 6 games.
Final thoughts for me on this trade, as I think both teams win. I think the Texans get what they needed on that offense, and that's a second counterpart to Lamar Miller. I don't think there's a good possibility, in my opinion, that you might see Duke Johnson as the first string. Not that Lamar Miller won't be there, but at some point in time, someone's got to utilize this guy properly, and maybe it's the Texans that do it. That's being said and done, if this becomes a 3rd-round pick, the Browns won this trade. Only by a margin, but they did win.
And to Ian's point, yes, Peter Parker is our second special guest for the evening. We didn't realize that was going to happen, but he was literally dropping down for about 20 minutes, and I've been watching his descent the whole time. We'll move on. We'll talk Patriots here because we have to talk about the Patriots.
We did.
And what we think they're going to do in 2019. We're not going to dwell. Everybody knows the Patriots are still going to be the class of the AFC. Everybody knows that. We're not going to go rub it in because we're all a bunch of AFC fans. There are a lot of AFC fans in the comments, too. I've seen Raiders. I've seen Houston Texans and Sharif. Steven was Raiders. Ian's a Steelers fan. I'm not going to rub it in, right? We know the Steelers are the team to beat. Or, not this. Well, Ian's hoping the Steelers are.
Did you just
we
say
know
the
the
Houston Ravens?
Probably. Houston Texans is what I was going for. I'm drunk, Drew. I don't know. We're all about. I see a lot of AFC fans in the comments here. What I will say is, you still have to beat the Patriots. The road through the AFC still runs through New England.
And not only that, did I so bad want to give them a losing season? So bad did I want to give them a losing season.
Right. When they play Buffalo twice and the Jets twice and the Dolphins twice. That's 6 wins, Drew.
That's
you beat 2 more teams
10.
and you're not broke.
6-10.
Okay. All right.
That being said, I don't know if you guys have ever done any research on the New England Patriots, and
Don't steal my stat.
I'm not stealing it. I'm not stealing your stat. I'm not.
Go ahead.
I'm not doing it.
But if trust you this time. Go ahead.
No, I don't even want to.
Now you got to dig yourself out of a hole because you were about to steal my stat.
No,
All right.
I was not.
Then all right, then go ahead. Go ahead. If you've done any research on the New England Patriots at all, please continue.
They have not had a losing season
Okay.
in a very, very long time. What stat do you got, buddy? Share your stat.
I will.
Share your
because
stat.
this is
You know
important.
what? You stole my thunder. Go ahead. Give your thunder out. What do you got?
This is important, all right? If you're paying attention at all, everyone talks about the Patriots being Tom Brady's team. They win because of Tom Brady, right? Well, since 2003, they're scoring, even this year, let's go into it. Their regular defense rated 21st in the NFL. This year, 7th in scoring. Since 2003, the Patriots have had 4 seasons. That's 15 years, mind you. 4 seasons outside the top 10 in scoring on defense. And those years, they finished 11th twice. They finished 12th one time, and the worst season since 2003, almost since Tom Brady came in the league, they finished 19th. This team wins games because they do not let opponents score points on them. Yes, do they have bad defenses on paper? Sure, we see a lot of yards put up on the board. But what matters in the NFL? Can you score on them? How many points did you put up against them in a game? When you're talking about a top 10 defense in scoring year in and year out, this is the reason for me. Yes, Tom Brady's an elite quarterback. He's the icing on the cake. He's perfect. But they win games because this defense does not let people score no matter how bad they are every year. It doesn't matter. I mean, they can be one of the worst defenses in the game. They're still not letting anybody score on them. They're keeping people out of the end zone. They're kicking field goals instead, and then they're out shooting them because they have an elite quarterback. This team, when you look at it on paper, stunk on defense, right? 21st, they were 22nd against the run, even though they were 11th against the pass. Not necessarily anything perfect or something to write home about, but 7th in scoring. Now we're talking about them being an elite defense because them only allowing 20 points, the best team in the league only gave up like 17.8. We're talking about a 2-point swing between them and the best defense. This is why they stay good every year in and year out. It's the defense. And I like Tom Brady too. And all the Tom Brady fanboys out there are going to kill me for this, but it's a lot easier to play when your team isn't allowing other teams to score against you.
I do not like Tom Brady.
Okay. Quality response there, Drew. Thank you for that.
No,
what else do you think about that? Sorry, I know I got on the soapbox there.
I don't want to give your thunder any more thunder to it, all right? I don't like Tom Brady. No, you're 100% right. I've said this for the longest time. If Tom Brady decides to retire and Belichick stays there, this team is still going to be above that division. Do I think that they have the power offensively to move themselves in the playoffs, to get themselves in the Super Bowl? No, not without Tom Brady. Sure. But they will find themselves a division winner because that division has stayed so weak for so long until one of those quarterbacks pan out. This is Belichick's division. But when it comes to playoffs, you need a quarterback that doesn't turn the ball over. If you go back and you look at the AFC Championship game, last year, the Chiefs won that game off of a turnover. The reason they did not win that game is because of a dumb move by Dee Ford, where he had his whole body over the scrimmage,
line of scrimmage.
the line of scrimmage. Tom Brady is losing a step. There's no doubt about it. Because Tom Brady in the past would not have been throwing an interception right there. But that defense that Belichick can put together out of no-name players, and when someone thinks they're better and above what the Patriots are, he'll move them on and replace them with someone that can do the job just okay. This is the reason why the Patriots have been so dominant for so long, is Belichick's scheme defensively. That's the reason why they won the Super Bowl in 2003 and 2005. That defense came in and dominated some of the best offenses you've seen in a long time. So, with that being said, is Tom Brady important to the team? Yeah, he is. Will they succeed after him? Yeah, they will.
As long as Belichick stays there. That's the thing. If he hangs up the hat.
But the reason why Tom Brady is the best quarterback that you've ever seen ever play the game is because he has been able to never turn the ball over when he shouldn't have to. And that's one of the things that a lot of these quarterbacks you can sit there and say are good quarterbacks, they turn the ball over.
Right.
Tom Brady does not. Now, his game is slipping. It's only a matter of time before he finally fails. It should have been last year, but unfortunately it did not.
They already punted Garoppolo, and if you remember, Belichick was livid about that because he thought, I have my next guy. Finally, the legacy can be about me, right? In New England, there's going to be kind of that inquest where after Tom Brady retires, how successful is the team? How far off the cliff does it fall? Because if it falls apart and Tom Brady retires, everything falls apart, you're not in the playoffs, or you're struggling to make the playoffs and you're not winning Super Bowls, every fan is going to say, in the NFL, is going to say they won all those Super Bowls because of Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Regardless of the Malcolm Brown making that interception, Malcolm Butler, making that interception, regardless of the Vinatieri kicks, the Falcons choking, yada, 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 or the reverse. You could say Eli Manning playing out of his mind for that game and Nick Foles having one of the best Super Bowl showings for a quarterback that can't find a starting job in the NFL. There's multiple ways to look at it. I think everything gets settled when Tom Brady retires. And the question is going to be, does Belichick hang up his hat too? And that question always stays out there of, was it Belichick, was it Brady? Or does Belichick, like I think he wants to do, want to make the legacy about him? Want to make it, we won all the Super Bowls because I am brilliant, and Tom Brady, even though he's good, succeeded because I was there as the head coach. Because there have been a lot of good quarterbacks that haven't won Super Bowls. Looking at you, Dan Marino. There have been a lot of quarterbacks out there that, even though they've won, guys like Joe Flacco and Eli Manning, that were like, they won, but it was the rest of the team. I think that's what Bill Belichick wants, is we won all the Super Bowls because I'm a genius, not because Tom Brady is the best quarterback to ever play the game. So the question to me is, how good can this team stay without a stud quarterback going in there, or without the kind of solved problem? That's why they took Jared Stidham in this draft, I think. Belichick is constantly going to take these mid-range quarterbacks, try to develop them, because he's going to find his answer in some guy who's good to great that's going to replace an elite quarterback like Tom Brady.
Steven says he hates the Pats, but the whole cheater crap is garbage. More examples of the media blowing shit up. If you look at the overall team infractions, every team in the league has done tons of dirty crap. I'm going to try to bring this down a little bit, that never gets talked about because the media doesn't leak it. Denver has the most team infractions since entering the league, but no one would ever think that because the media doesn't talk about it. New England is the best organization in football. That simple.
I think they're the most cutthroat, and that can win you games in the NFL. But then again, you also have to look at the severity of it. And when you're committing espionage against opposing teams like the Jets, when they were trying, which is where they got caught, they've been doing it other times. Yeah. Not to mention playing with the rules of the footballs. There's levels to everything. So piping in noise and making things a little bit louder for opposing teams, that's an infraction. Actively spying on other teams to try to steal their plays is a whole nother level. I mean, to me, that is when you're doing stuff outside of that. Off the field, we're using cameras to try to spy on other teams. If you're Mike Tomlin, you believe they have like the bathrooms mic'd up and stuff, so that's why he struggles there. Ian, that's why it's going to be a loss to the Patriots in Week 1. We'll talk about that in a sec.
Microphones in the bathroom.
When you're talking about the level of stuff, I think the Patriots, do they bend the rules? Sure. But every team's trying to bend the rules, to your point, Steven. Everyone's trying to get that advantage. The question is, how far do you push the envelope, and what can you get away with?
All right, so team infractions. One thing that you brought up, what did you bring up again? Oh, putting noise out to the stadium. That is one of them. But you know what another one is? Talking to players that aren't free agents yet. Okay, that's another one. Kansas City's been busted for it. Every team in the league has been busted for it.
Right.
But what that really doesn't do is affects wins and losses. So the Denver Broncos...
Well, if you get them, it does. If you get them. If you're the first guy to reach out and say, man, dude, we love you. We want you here.
I get what you're saying. Okay.
It can.
But it does not do wins and losses right then and there.
For the next year,
hold on. pump the brakes.
It
on
does.
what you're
It helps
saying.
you build a franchise.
It does not win games for you that season. It does not win Super Bowls for that season.
Spying on the other team's plays does.
Does.
Yeah.
That's
And
what my
true.
point is. My point is that point in time doesn't mean that they're going to sit there and sign with that team because they reached out to him first. But stealing player or the team's plays affects the game right then and there.
Absolutely.
So when you talk about team infraction, who has the most? I'm actually quite surprised it's Denver, but doesn't really surprise me because I don't like Denver. So okay, I'm good with that.
Yeah,
but
right.
but Kansas City's been in trouble with it too. The first one I can think of is Jeremy Maclin coming from the Eagles to Kansas City. Did that win me games? No, it did not.
Well,
Jeremy
it's 'cause he
Maclin
fell
was
off a cliff.
garbage.
Well, he was good
So-
for 1 year. He's good for 1 year.
He's
in
garbage.
KC.
So my point is I get that there's more infractions in a different team, but the infractions that they made are way more important. They affected a game with deflating the ball. They sat there and stealed play calls from a defense that they got worried about and said, we might not win this game unless we cheat first. Now, do other teams do it? Yeah. But they didn't get caught.
Well,
New England Patriots do.
I don't
Did
know that
get
other
caught.
teams got that bold. To be honest with you, actively committing, like people out there with
I can't
cameras
sit there-
taking pictures of playbooks, lip reading off of guys, which is why every
They
time you
probably
see
do.
someone on the sideline holding
that-
the play sheet in front of their face,
Okay.
so you can't read their lips.
But that being
no,
said-
no,
That being
that was
said-
far. That
okay,
was
that being
egregious.
said, I have to completely agree with him.
They paid the price for it. Yeah,
New England Patriots is the best organization in football. It is that simple, and that's why you see so many other teams, including our favorite teams, try to
Bummer.
mirror what they do.
and Houston, and there's a lot of other teams. I mean, look at all the Belichick tree, and even though these guys haven't landed out yet, there's a reason they're trying to copy him. It's because everybody's cheating, and there's the old NASCAR saying, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. So I think yes, they have cheated, but does that mean all those 6 Super Bowls mean nothing? No, absolutely not. I mean, yeah, did they go farther than some teams? Probably. Did they go so much farther that you need to discount what they've done? You can't, because they are a great organization. Every outside activities or not, they have done so much. Even since then, we haven't caught them cheating the past couple of years, and they're still winning Super Bowls.
Yeah.
So when you look at it, you can't just pin it on that. You can't say the only thing is that they are just cheating to win.
Sheree said Macklin was trash for the Ravens.
He was also trash every year but like one for Kansas City, and I had him that year in fantasy.
And Ivy says she wholeheartedly agrees with both of us. We appreciate that.
Absolutely, we do.
But kind of more me.
Yeah, don't listen to him. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Also, Steven says, have you never heard of the salary cap gate? If not, look it up on Denver. It's pretty nuts. I have not off the top of my head. I'll probably remember it when I go and look it up, but it's not better than Spygate. Spygate was like the shot heard around the world, right? Everybody was like, man, the Patriots are cheaters. They'll never win again. But then they did. And even though they lost, like, what was it, a first-round pick, and they had suspensions all around and stuff like that, yeah, they still managed to win.
All right.
Do I think Belichick should have been suspended for a year? Kind of like they suspended Sean Payton when they had Bountygate?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
can we stop naming everything after Watergate? That's kind of cliche. Don't like that. But every scandal
That's
that comes
the
out has
media.
gate after it. That's
That's the
stupid.
media.
No, I
Media
agree.
did
That's
that.
stupid. They named it after a hotel, guys. Okay? Richard Nixon's, that's a long time ago. Let's not worry about that.
All right, Ian. We don't got a whole lot of time for this. He says the refs seemed a little friendly with the Pats, shaking hands with Brady before and after the game, not the other quarterback. Something seems a little fishy to him. Listen, I am not going to be the conspiracy theorist here. Let's just be completely honest here. If I met Tom Brady, as much as I don't like him, I would shake his hand as much as I possibly could, because you're meeting someone that's arguably the best quarterback or best player in his position of all
when
time.
someone's going to reach your hand, reach out there to shake to you, everyone does it. Have you ever watched soccer?
Yeah.
Everyone does it all the time. They try to get on the ref's good side. That's
Yeah.
exactly what that is. And
Yeah.
do I think they're getting calls because they're on the ref's good side? Maybe a few, but more than that, if you watch the NFL, they go towards the popular and the winning teams. That's just the way things work. I complain about it all the time. Try being a small market team. Look at my best example, Buffalo versus the Seattle Seahawks. I think it was 2018. Richard Sherman literally blows somebody up on the last play, knocks him to the ground, throws him over. No pass interference call, right? The NFL will always lean towards the popular and the teams that are doing well. If you want to get over that, win some games. If you want the calls to go your way, win some games. That's what you have to do. And great teams overcome, right? We talk about that a lot.
Another reason why my Kansas City Chiefs 4 years in a row are going to New England to play New England. Another reason. I mean, just
Well, that's because you keep winning the division. You're
No.
like, we own the West. Well, that's
No.
what happens when you win the division. You play the division winner for that other conference.
But you're missing the point. Is there's a reason why that always.
Oh,
keeps
you
happening.
saying keep going to New England
Yes.
to play them. Okay, all right. You got me there. Sorry, I
Because
thought you were saying they're chipping
I'm going
us
to tell you
'cause-
right now that the NFL, the league itself as a whole, makes the most money in primetime games in New England versus anybody.
Yep.
That's anybody. I don't care if they're playing the Dolphins this year. The league makes the most money in New England if the Patriots are playing there.
All right, we got to do this.
We do.
Ready? That's
We got
why
it.
they're playing the Steelers at home week 1.
Yep.
Because that's where the money's at. I know Heinz Field's great, but like you said, nobody brings it in like New England on prime time. Look for the Steelers and the Patriots to be a great game, but I think Belichick's in Mike Tomlin's head.
Yeah.
I think when you look at things, the Steelers are going to drop this game like they do everyone because you get guys like Mike Tomlin coming out saying, man, I think they have the restrooms bugged in our locker room. I can't trust anything. I think Belichick, more than anyone, might be in Mike Tomlin's head for, getting that result. And you don't even have to do anything. If they think you're doing something, that's enough to to gain an advantage on somebody.
Stephen, we will check that site out. I don't know if we'll talk about it in our next show, but we'll let you know, man. We'll comment or something or put a post out there. We'll let you know our idea or our thoughts of that webpage. But anyways, week 2, they go on the road to Miami. I mean, is there much of a question here? I mean, this...
Let's not do one by one. Let's do the full set here because they play everyone in division in a 3-week span. They go on the road to Miami. After that, they get the Jets at home, and then they get the Bills on the road at that.
I want to talk
about
week 2.
this being an easy schedule, and I do want to talk about this. I talked about this being an easy schedule. Am I overreacting because so many of these division games are as easy as they are?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're going to see the Patriots in the race for the first seed, and as much as we talk about all this other stuff, part of the reason they're there is because 3 of the teams in there of 4 in the division are very poorly run.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Buffalo hasn't had a quarterback in forever. Even though I like the defense running game strategy, they haven't had a quarterback to make it work. And don't tell me Josh Allen. Back off of that. I want to see it before I'm ready
I
to
don't
crown
want to
this guy the
sleep
next
on
best
week 3 and 4, and that's the reason why I put week 2 out there.
Okay.
Okay, this is going to be more than likely I'm blanking on his name now. Patrick, that's his
For
name.
the Dolphins.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. He's going to be the starting quarterback for week 2. There's no doubt about it. You're going to see him make plenty of mistakes. He'll probably put up a lot of points, become a high-scoring game. But we believe that the Patriots can't hold, or the Dolphins can't hold a candle to the Patriots. I mean, this game is going to be, in my opinion, kind of a blowout.
But they start slow. And I want to get to that when we talk about the Jets here. The
And
Patriots
this
historically
is where,
don't start strong.
in week 3, when they go
Right.
home to play the Jets, I think this is a team that a lot of people are sleeping on. I think defensively, they've really focused on what wasn't working right, and that was their defensive line. And their linebacking core. They've added pieces to the draft and free agency. I still think they have a really strong secondary with Adams and May. And also Johnson and the other gentleman that I can't think of his name right now on corners. They have a really stout defense. I think this is a game that they could lose. And as a show, we see in week 3 the Jets beating the Patriots.
This is Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell is going to take this game over. We're talking about the 22nd run defense, and even though they keep people out of the end zone, you won't when you're that weak against the run. And the Jets, to me, that's the best and almost only weapon they have. Don't tell me Jamison Crowder. Don't tell me Quincy Enunwa. They have guys on the secondary, or they have guys in this receiving corps, but they don't have studs. They have a stud at running back. They're going to run on the Patriots.
Yeah, no, they are, and I get it.
I think I just swallowed that spider from the ceiling. Keep going.
Was he tasty?
It was fantastic.
All right.
All right.
But in week 4, when they find themselves up in Buffalo, we see them kind of getting back on track. You don't like Josh Allen as much as I like Josh Allen, and
I like
think
that he wins games.
And I
But
do like the fact,
sustainability. We got to talk about
like
that.
the fact that they're putting the pieces around him and trying to make him their franchise quarterback. If he is or isn't, that's yet to be seen. But the defense seems to always play the Patriots well. Unfortunately, after losing that game, the Jets, they're going to be a little mad, and they're going to want to win, and they're going to get a win up in Buffalo.
They're not going to lose to both. This is, to me, is a rotational thing. They'll lose to the Bills. They'll lose to the Jets, but they probably wind up beating one of the two. I think they beat the Bills because I think the Bills, quarterback-wise, probably have less to work with than Sam Darnold. They probably have less at wide receiver to work with, even though they signed Cole Beasley and John Brown to step in Buffalo. I think when you look at things, Jamison Crowder, Quincy Enunwa, Robbie Anderson, I'd still take that set over what the Bills have, but, like, it's close. And then you have Le'Veon Bell. Give me Le'Veon Bell, right? Even Shady McCoy at this point, give me Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah. No, I agree.
We'll move forward, though. I think that is a tough stretch, but we still see the Patriots coming out 3-1. After that, they go on the road to face the Redskins, the Giants at home, Jets on the road after that. 3 more games that seem incredibly winnable, right? I mean, again, we talk about easy schedules. Patriots might be off and running from the get-go again because of this way the schedule is set up.
Actually, I think week 3, week 4, and week 5 are all really tough defenses, and it's going to be a struggle to win all these games because how these defenses play. And one thing we've been saying about this Redskins team in Washington also, got to remind you, is that this defense plays really well. Not only do they like stopping the run, they also play your receiving core very well. One thing that the Patriots do not have anymore is a tight end that can kind of open up the middle and allow the team to not cheat up and down.
You really had to talk me into this one.
So I fully believe what the Redskins are doing on defense, that they might be able to put some surprise wins against good offenses like the Patriots, regardless if it's Colt McCoy, Case Keenum, or Dwayne Haskins. At some point in time, this Redskins team, we got to remember, they were almost in the playoffs last year until Alex Smith got hurt, and he was not doing anything spectacular.
Even more than that, I think this is on the running game. Can Adrian Peterson at 33 plus Darius Geis put enough of a pounding on the Patriots defense to make this win? Potentially. They play good defense on top of it. Maybe the Redskins can steal one of these. They get questions at quarterback, but if you keep this game entirely on the ground and just play bully ball, it could happen.
You go and look at Colt McCoy's starting stats. He is not a bad quarterback. He's not. His problem is he can't stay healthy. Pretty much the story and history of the Redskins. They can't stay healthy. I'm sorry, man. You can sit there and not... I just realized we still have the Cowboys can out there. We never switched to the Patriots.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Cowboys.
You shouldn't have said anything.
No, I had to. I just saw it for the first time. It was too hard not to. I'm sorry, man. I fully believe the Redskins are going to upset a lot of great teams, and they're going to get beat by really terrible teams.
And let's talk about what Sharif says. He says he believes that the Ravens are going to unleash the hounds on Tom Brady. You know who else is going to do that? The Washington Redskins. One of the better defenses from last year. If they're still alive at this point in the season, I expect them to play the Patriots really tough. That's how you beat them, right? You play defense, you run the rock. I think you could beat this Patriots team, but you need to get into that ground and pound mentality if you're going to beat them. That's why I think teams like the Giants, even though they're going to run a little bit, aren't going to have the defense to really keep pace with them. The Jets probably don't have the muscle to keep up with them twice, even though that game is on the road in New York. I think when you look at this stretch of games, they're going to lose the Redskins on the road because you talked me into it. And then after that, the Giants and Jets, they're not going to hold a candle to the Patriots. The Patriots by now will start to wake up and say, it's time to start playing that Patriot football. We got to get that first overall seed so we don't have to play the Chiefs in Kansas City again. Or the Titans in Nashville.
But it didn't get any. It does
happen.
not get any easier at this point. It actually gets harder. The difficult part of their schedule does start to happen in week 8 to week 9. They face the Browns at home, and then they go on the road to the Ravens. These are 2 tough games.
And if you flip the 2, I might say Ravens lose at the first game to the Patriots and the Browns beat them, but I think the Browns, coming off games like the Giants and Jets, the Patriots are going to be ready for this. The Browns have some questions of their own, and not to mention they have a good secondary that's going to be able to slow down these receivers that the Browns have spent all this money on. Sure, they're 1 game away still from having Kareem Hunt. You still have to go with Nick Chubb here. Maybe... we're not talking about a Duke Johnson-less Cleveland Browns. I think the Browns are going to come up a little bit short here. Young quarterback in Baker Mayfield. Maybe he's the future of the NFL, but is he ready to square up with a 42-year-old GOAT? I'd say not yet. I'm going to go Patriots in week 8, right? And then we'll talk about the Ravens next. We have this as a loss for them for the simple fact of...
For the Patriots.
For the Patriots, right. We have this as a loss for the Patriots for the simple fact that you just came off a rougher game than probably you've been used to, and now you've got a team like the Ravens that play bully ball like nobody else in the NFL. Great defense, great running attack. I think this game, you might almost just hang your hat up and say, let's make it a loss so that Tom Brady doesn't get hit as many times as the Ravens are going to be looking to hit him.
This is one time, well, not one time, but this is a huge reason why we believe the Ravens could win this game is because that offense is set to make great quarterbacks on the opposite side sit on the sideline. If they could sit there and open up this run game and make quarterbacks wait to sit there and get out there and face the defense, and let's not forget, this Ravens defense, as much as I talked them down about losing these pieces, are still going to be a good defense.
And they always find the way
if not possibly could be a great defense.
Right? That's what we say every offseason.
Right.
Ravens are going to be bad on defense. They've lost too much. And then they're always like a top 3 defense. We've been saying that about Harbaugh forever. The John Harbaugh, not the Jim Harbaugh.
And as Sharif said, the Ravens have always been a matchup problem for the Pats. I
think they are here too.
Completely agree.
You
and I
can't
think
lean
it's
on these
gonna
running
be the
backs with the
exact same
Patriots.
thing in Week 9. Yep.
Right. Absolutely. Week 10, they get a bye. And then after that, things get tough when they go and play the Eagles on the road, the Cowboys after that at home. And then you get the Texans on the road. This is a tough stretch of games. We see two of these 3 games being losses.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Eagles first. We see it as a loss on the road 11, in Philadelphia.
I think with the addition of Jordan Howard, and if Carson Wentz can stay healthy, we are all assuming these things have been working out for this Eagles team because we see why not. I mean, they let Nick Foles go. Carson Wentz, they believe, can stay healthy. You got a Jordan Howard who seems to fit that offensive scheme so much better than the Bears. This team should be moving.
Backpedaling a little bit, Ian says the New England defense brings the boom on Baltimore, 21-9 New England. Let me tell you, they didn't do that last year. In my opinion, they got worse. Losing Trey Flowers and bringing in Michael Bennett, even though Bennett at 32 or whatever he's at is still a quality player, is not going to be the same guy that a 26-year-old Trey Flowers is going to be now that he's been shipped out. This guy was both the run and pass defense pretty much for the front 4 in New England. This guy was the bread and butter, the heartbeat for that defense. I think losing him is going to take more of an effect. When you talk about the way the Ravens run the ball and this nasty, huge offensive line that just wants to bully you, this is going to be a struggle for the New England Patriots in Week 9 for the Ravens.
Yeah, no doubt about
it. Going back to the Philly game, same deal. Now you've got this big, disgusting, nasty defensive line for Philadelphia that just loves getting in there and disrupting things. Fletcher Cox is going to be feasting in this game. As good as the Patriots' offensive line is going to be, this is the best defensive line in football still, even after losing Michael Bennett.
Yeah, no doubt about it. If Aaron Donald didn't exist, I'd probably sit there and tell you Fletcher Cox is the best defensive player in this league. This guy is a complete stud, and he loves teams like this. Yeah, the Patriots' offensive line might not be the best one, but that's what he feasts on. He's like, you can't stop me. I'm going to disrupt the passing. And what did the Titans show us last year against the Patriots? You put pressure on Tom Brady, they will lose games. And this is what the Eagles are going to do.
And you run the rock, because that's what we did.
Exactly.
You run the rock, you play defense. I think the Eagles can do it too. The Cowboys, even though we want to say they can do the same, I don't see them losing back-to-back. We had to pick one to be a loss here. I think the Cowboys, because this one's in New England, Dak Prescott's maybe a little less experienced, so when you get to those points where you need to throw on those 3rd and 6s, can we count on Dak Prescott going up against as good of a secondary as the New England Patriots have? Because they just brought back the McCourty brothers. They still have Stephon Gilmore on the other side. They still have a good secondary, even if they're not going to play the run real well. Maybe Zeke takes this game over, but on paper, I think I'm going to go with the more experienced quarterback here. I think Carson Wentz still a step ahead, and we're going to talk about this with Houston here in a minute. Deshaun Watson, Carson Wentz, still a very big step ahead of where Dak Prescott in this passing game will be in Dallas.
It's going into Week 13. They go on the road to Houston. This has been a team that has always pushed New England to its edge, but can never win. Do we see 2019 being finally a win for the Houston Texans?
Well, you do. You really had to sell this one to me. I wanted to give this one to the Patriots as well, but again, they've been one of the teams that has been so close to beating the Patriots because Bill O'Brien, again, off that Belichick tree and everything. We haven't really seen them put it together just yet, but they have a good front 7 that maybe take these running backs that are still the scariest part of New England's offense out of the game. We see maybe J.J. Watt make a little bit of a renaissance. Maybe Jadeveon Clowney comes back and makes something happen. I think this is the year Deshaun Watson and company find a way to get it done. Even if it's by an edge, especially because they're playing Eagles, Cowboys, Texans, this might be just the straw that breaks the camel's back. They come off those tough games, and Houston is able to get a win here in Week 13. Now, Sharif says he sees a loss to the Eagles and a win versus the Cowboys and Texans. Potentially. But I think by now, the Patriots even are worn out. And maybe even looking ahead next week to the Chiefs when they play them at home, they might take their guard and put it down against this Texans team. And if you do that, the Texans we've seen in all of last year, if you put their guard down a little bit, they'll steal a win from you.
He says, really, are you taking the Texans? I am, man. I'm taking them. I think this is the year the Texans can beat the Patriots.
On the reverse, though, if the Texans had played in Week 11 coming off the bye week, I would say the Texans lose this game 9 times out of 10. I think the Texans are lucky to play them after teams like the Eagles and the Cowboys because they're going to play smash mouth defense. They're going to run the rock. They're going to wear the defense down a little bit and hopefully slow down this pass rush a little bit because they've played great offensive lines in Philadelphia and Dallas as well. I'm going to give the Texans the win by the slightest margin here. I think it's going to be close. It might be game of the week. Look for the Texans to finally upset the Patriots like everyone's been waiting for that to happen.
2 years ago, they should have.
And they didn't. But maybe this year's different.
Maybe it is.
We'll talk about Week 14, Drew's Chiefs.
Let's actually put 14,
No,
15.
let's do 14 because after that, things get a lot easier. 14 by itself, then we'll do 15, 16, 17 all together.
I'm just a robot.
All right. Chiefs at home, Week 14, game of the week. Mark it down right now. We've seen 2 great games out of these teams already. AFC Championship, week whatever for 2018 where Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady squared up and it was an offensive explosion. Who wins this one?
I don't want to talk about it. That's why I was trying to put 2 games together so we could not have to worry about and focus on just one game. I think this is going to be another one of those games where the Patriots seem to squeak it out just a little bit over my Chiefs. And you know what? I'm okay with it because one of the hardest things to do in the NFL is beat the same team twice. It is one of the most difficult things, and if I'm going to sit there and say that the Patriots are going to beat the Chiefs, it's going to be in the regular season. Because when we find each other in the playoffs, that's when we're going to win. Maybe this is a hopeful. Maybe that's what I'll see, is that the fact that Patriots beat them this one time, and then in the playoffs they don't beat them again.
I hope not. I was rooting for the Chiefs despite having to listen to you if they would have won, and you tell me how Patrick Mahomes is God's gift to football. But I was still rooting for the Chiefs because I was just so tired of it. I was still tired of listening to the Patriots winning every Super Bowl pretty much since Tom Brady came in the league. So, again, this to me, Week 14, mark it on the calendar, boys. I hope this is a Monday night game. I don't have the times in front of me here. I hope this is a Monday night game because it deserves to be. We're late enough in the season. It could be a flex game that moves into the prime time. I almost guarantee it already is. I think it's one of those games the NFL is not going to overlook. We're going to see 2 of the best in the AFC square up against each other in Week 14. I'm going to go Patriots by an edge because it's in Foxborough, but I think if this one's in KC and we're in Arrowhead again, I'd go Chiefs here.
Yeah, me too. I honestly would.
All right, well, let's talk about the rest of the schedule because, again, things get easier. And why is that? Because they stay in division for most of these games. They go on the road to face the Bengals in Week 15. They play the Bills and then Dolphins at home to finish out the season. Like I said, be good and good things happen to you. There's a reason they're playing 2 division rivals who aren't as good of teams at home towards the end of the season in case they need that first round bye, right?
Yeah, no doubt about it. Week 15 against Cincinnati in Cincinnati. At this point in time, I'm assuming Andy Dalton is probably not healthy or they're trying to find their next quarterback of the future. I think Cincinnati...
They're trying to figure out if it's Jeff Driscoll.
I mean, at this point in time, I assume Cincinnati is a dumpster fire. A team like the Patriots, it's almost like another bye week before they go into division rival games.
Yep, couple more comments. Sharif says the Pats don't want the smoke from the Kansas City Chiefs. Well, they got them twice last year, right?
It is not a primetime game. Sharif is telling us it
will be. It will be. I guarantee you. They're going to flex
an afternoon game on Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. It's sitting at 3:05 Central Time, 4:05 if you're on the East Coast. It's going to be one of those games. They're okay, even better. They're going to flex that
20 minutes later.
They're going to flex that into Monday Night Football because they flex the back half of the season because they want these teams facing each other. This is going to be a primetime game. It should be. It absolutely 100% should be.
I don't understand how it wasn't scheduled that way.
And I am too, but who knows? Maybe there's another Week 14 matchup that's good too, but they are going to flex. These 2 teams probably battling it out for the first seed in the AFC.
Unless it's the NFC Championship game, there is no better matchup.
Saints-Rams, Eagles-Rams, Eagles-Saints on the same level. That's all I can say. I don't know. Don't ask me to pick. There's a few of these games that probably match up with them. And unless there's one of those, I'm going to go Chiefs-Patriots here because this is one of the best matchups in football, right? The only better one I saw was Rams-Chiefs on prime time last year. The other thing that I might be looking at is like, man, we already gave the Chiefs 38 games. They're on prime time already. Why, we gotta like back off a little bit. So maybe.
Loving it.
I'm not. I'm tired of seeing this red I almost swore. I'm tired of seeing these red jerseys on Monday Night Football all the time. Meanwhile, they're like,
win your division.
Meanwhile, they're like, they gave the Titans a Thursday night game. What are you complaining about?
Win your division.
Nobody's watching that.
Win your division.
Nobody's watching Titans Jaguars on Thursday. That's why this game should be on primetime. It should.
Win your division.
I'm trying as hard as I can. we'll move forward here. Finish things out. Bills at home, Dolphins at home, double wins.
Double wins.
In division, the Patriots at home. These are games they're probably going to need because, again, the competition's starting to look a little scary in the AFC. If you believe in the Chargers, you believe in the Texans, you believe in the Chiefs, there are some teams that might take that top spot away from maybe Steelers, maybe Browns. Who knows? That all of a sudden the AFC is looking better on the top end than it has in years. I think the Patriots should finish this season out strong, win both of those games, and put teams like the Dolphins, especially, but also the Bills, to shame. Even though we like running in defense against the Patriots, I think the Bills are going to come up a little short because they don't have the quarterback to get things done in the clutch.
As much as we wanted to sit
Josh
there
Allen.
and say that the Patriots are going to take a step back, we actually see them almost mirroring the exact same record at 11-5, which is a mirror image of that.
A step back, but also
a step
business
forward.
as usual for the Patriots. Yeah.
And then, honestly, their schedule's so darn easy because of their division, you can see them only losing 2 of these games. That moving forward, what's your final thoughts of the Patriots 2019 season?
Also, Ian says New England might look past Cincinnati for the trip game. No. I'm going to go no. That's one thing the Patriots have been very good at in years past is when the season comes down to it and you get to the end of the schedule, they are lights out. And that's why they wind up with that first seed. We go and play the Patriots on the road in Foxborough, and they wind up winning a lot of playoff games. That's what happens. I think the Patriots, more than anyone, have a better killer instinct in the NFL. I don't think they overlook that game. Also, Ian says the Browns, really? Well, a lot of people have money on them winning the Super Bowl. Even Vegas has them 14-1, which is not odds that are way, way out there. They're going to have receivers. They're going to have a hopefully better defense than we saw last year. They've got the pass rushers and Olivier Vernon now, and obviously Myles Garrett on the other side. They're getting there. I'm the guy that's like not quite yet, but the Browns are getting there. There's going to be competition.
Yep. Sharif kind of cleared up some of this. He says the Pats and Texans Sunday night
And it usually
for week
is prime
13, and he said week 14, that primetime game is the Seahawks at the Rams. Another great matchup. So it makes sense, but
they'll flex it. I think by now the Seahawks might maybe take that like 9-7, 10-win route, and we're going to be talking about the Chiefs and the Patriots.
Talking about playoffs.
We are, playoffs, but then we're going to be talking Patriots, Chiefs, and the NFL is going to say, you know what?
Who could be soundly winning their divisions, and you know they're going to play in the playoffs? I mean, I'm just saying.
But this could be the first seed.
But Seahawks
It's
might
the
not
first
be able to
seed.
make the playoffs unless they beat the Rams.
Okay, all right. You convinced me. It could happen. It's not going to happen. All right, we'll talk about more of this later.
Final thoughts for the Patriots. Give them to me.
11-5, business as usual. They're going to be good, even though I'm not sure about these receivers. I'm not sure about N'Keal Harry yet. He's a rookie. Don't bet too much on him. Don't go out and reach on him in fantasy because you don't see that other guy out there. Edelman's still going to be the workhorse here. I don't know what's going to happen with Ben Watson at tight end either. When you look at this Patriots team, I don't know how they're going to get the job done, but they're going to get it done as long as Tom Brady's their quarterback and stays healthy. Question to me more is what does this offensive line do with Trent Brown gone? And they'll be fine. But what does this offensive line look like with Trent Brown gone? Veldheer will be fine filling in for him.
My biggest thing, and we have not harped on it too much, is Gronkowski not being there. That blanket of comfort that Tom Brady loves to throw the ball to is no longer be there. Yes, Edelman has taken a lot of receptions away from Gronkowski, but when did it come to matter? When was it overtime and against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game? It is Gronkowski that made that catch. He is no longer there. He's going to have to find the other side of that field that Edelman is not on. Some comfort blanket there. I want to give the Patriots a step back, like I said earlier, but the division's just too weak right now. You're gonna see them in the playoffs, unfortunately. 11-5, as much as I wanted to give them a 10-6 or a 9-7, it's just can't happen. They own the keys to the AFC East.
They do, absolutely. We need to see a huge step forward from any of these young quarterbacks before I can say that's not. Maybe Ryan Fitzpatrick has the renaissance in Miami, but you look at the rest of the roster and you're like, that ain't happening. I think the Patriots, again, are going to trapeze their way into another playoff appearance regardless of seeding. They're going to be there. They're still the team to beat in the AFC. If you want to win the Super Bowl, you got to find a way to beat Tom Brady first. Yeah. And Bill Belichick. You got to beat that combo first.
All right, guys, thank you so much for all your likes, comments, and shares. It means the world to us. If I missed your comment, I'm so sorry, but Charlie, Ian, Jeremy, Chris, Ty, James, Ivy, Lewis, Frank, Owen, and Sharif. You guys are all awesome. Thank you so much for all your likes, shares, and comments. It means the world to us.
Fun show. I also want to especially thank Ian because I know you dipped on the Steelers game in preseason. I know it was probably after the started. You turned it on and Big Ben wasn't playing. And you're like, ugh. But we appreciate you hanging with us. We really do, especially when your team's playing on.
Josh Dobbs doesn't do it for you?
You know I'm the Tennessee guy, right? I love Josh.
I
no, I don't. I think Josh Dobbs is terrible. It might even be.
Is he still a Steeler?
I don't even. Yeah, I think he is, and Landry Jones isn't. But I don't know. I don't know what the state of their backup quarterbacks is right now. Don't ask. Don't grill me on this. Thank you guys so much. Again, the show is so much better with all your comments. It was a fantastic show. I'm gonna go on here. I'm gonna be like, man, we killed it, and then Facebook's gonna be like, surprise, you didn't. But we appreciate each and every one of you guys. The show is so much better with all your thoughts, all your comments, all your shares. We wouldn't have a show without you. So thank you guys so much. So for Sports Around the Bar, do you have any final thoughts before I close this out?
I'm
good.
good.
Sports Around the Bar, guys, thank you so much. We'll be back on Monday to talk about one of the 4 teams we haven't talked about. One of them's Washington, one of them's the Jaguars. I hope you like those teams. If not, there's 2 more that I'm forgetting right now. It'll be one of them.
Texans.
And a 4th mystery team. We'll be back to talk about one of them. Thank you so much. We're going to have a special guest as well. Ian says Josh Dobbs looked good tonight. I'm saying you're smoking crack. I've seen him play at Tennessee. I know this guy can't throw the rock. Beyond that, thank you so much for watching. Again, it was fun. I had a great time. I hope you guys have a good night. We'll see. Have a great weekend. I know we are. We're going to be turned up. I hope you do too. I can't believe I said that. I'm a 30-year-old man saying turned up. We'll see you on Monday when we talk about more football. Exactly. We'll see you then. Thank you again, Ivy. It was great because you guys were here. Have a great weekend. We'll see you then. Say your line.